Pregame.com.
Texas at UCLA. I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo, joined by highly regarded sports journalist Stephen Nover and betting expert here in Las Vegas. Stephen, we've got Texas UCLA. Not the same luster that in past years of Texas and UCLA, but this game has some meaning for Texas because Texas last year, and I'm going to jump right in. I'm going with Texas in this game. This is the game that started Texas's downward spiral last year. They opened the season 3-0. Everything looked like it was going to be a typical, Texas Longhorn season. And then UCLA come to town, and UCLA put they didn't just beat them, they put a beating on them. And Texas, it seemed like they never recovered from that, and they spiraled into a 5-7 season after a 3-0 start. If you look at that game last year, what I saw was this was a spot Texas got caught looking ahead. UCLA was coming in, and UCLA's been down the program the last few years. They looked past UCLA because their next game up was the Red River Shootout with Oklahoma. I think they got ambushed, and I think this year Texas they're on a mission to go in and do some payback. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, certainly you talk your revenge games. This is one of the games you would be circling before the season as one of the biggest revenge games of the season. But can Texas, get it done at the quarterback spot? Gilbert has been a perennial disappointment, and now it looks like he's finally out. They're going to do some split duties with one of the quarterbacks being Case McCoy, brother, of course, of Colt McCoy. Is it a leap of faith to kind of project that he's going to be very good? My feeling, Marco, if he was like his brother, wouldn't have he been in there? Wouldn't have he been in there before, considering how inconsistent Gilbert's been? And yes, Texas has the great athletes, but so does UCLA. I think Neuheisel is a great recruiter. He's not necessarily maybe the greatest coach. That's why the record isn't that good.
I think he's an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Is where he's best suited.
Right, but Texas just can't win this game on talent alone here. So you got to get some better play at quarterback. Can you do that to have that strong of opinion on Texas?
Well, what I'm looking at, first of all, and if you remember, last week we did discuss Texas BYU, and I've said this BYU team is better than people are giving them credit for. This team, going back to last year, going into last week's game, had won 6 of their last 7 games. Their only loss was a 1-point loss late last season to Utah, who was a good team last year. This BYU team's got talent. Their defense is very underrated. They've got a good defense. They held this Texas team down, and they held Mississippi State at the first game of the season. Mississippi. I think Texas went against a good defense, and that's, I think, really Mac Brown's jumping the gun on pulling the quarterback. I know he struggled, but BYU is a good defense. This UCLA defense, not so good. They gave up a ton of points to Houston in the opener, and then last week I think they played San Jose State, and they couldn't put this team away. San Jose State, covered the game, hung around till late. I think Texas goes in there. They're going to be able to manhandle UCLA, I think, at the point of attack. That big offensive line, and get that running game going. And whichever quarterback's in there, if you get a running game going, it's going to make an average quarterback look better once you get the running game going. And I think they can do that in this game.
Well, have they settled on a running back? And second of all, this will probably be one of the poorer quarterback opponents they face. UCLA, they're in the Pac-12. Practically every week they're going against a quarterback stud. And Marco, these are some of the trends and angles you're bucking if you really like Texas here. Texas 3-9 against the spread is chalk. Their last 17 games, they failed to cover 13 times out of their last 17. And as a road favorite in this range, 3.5 to 10 points, 1-7 against the spread. Now, those are the trends you're bucking here. I don't know if you're a trend player, but that kind of overwhelming evidence, you have to put a little credence into it, right?
You do, and I think that a lot of the past editions of Texas, remember that until last year, Texas was a perennial powerhouse. So there's a lot of public money, going to the Texas side. So Texas was a team that was always overpriced, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right now, I think that market has changed. I don't think the public is in love with Texas anymore. Now, this line did go up from 3.5 to 4. I don't like that it bumped a half a point. I will admit that. This isn't a best bet by any means, but I'm going to go with the Texas side. I just think overall, the fact that what they did show me last week is they were outplayed by BYU in most categories last week. BYU played them tough, and Texas was able to weather the storm, and come out of that game. I like Texas to go in here, get their revenge. This is a big game, and I think if they can pull this win off, Texas, they might be okay moving forward for the rest of the season. They're not going to challenge for, the Big 12, but they're not going to have a 5-7 season like last year. Texas, 23-16. That's my closing projection. Any opinion at all, or?
Really very slight, maybe the other way to UCLA. A very close game, maybe 3 points either way.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and make it official for me. We're going to take Texas 23-16. Not a best bet. We're actually going to be back with the best bet in the next segment. We're going to take a look at Tennessee at Florida. That's my video best bet of the week.